Hello, I'm Sam Gray. I'm a member of the Finance Committee, and I'm the liaison from the Finance Committee to the School Committee. In tonight's meeting of the Finance Committee, we had considerable discussion about the school committee's problems in the upcoming budget. This session that will follow will be involved with our discussion, and that's what will be televised.
Because I keep hearing a large number of layoffs. Okay, and I don't think it's a threat.
I know it's out of order, but I wonder if maybe I could comment on my meeting with the school yesterday. I met with, if I may.
You should be met.
I met with Dr. Rabinowitz to ask him about what I thought was going to be the mined forest situation. And we did talk about that briefly, but we also ended up, what I didn't realize was that half an hour later, he was having a budget meeting, and he asked me to sit in on that, which I did for much of it. As far as capital items are concerned, they are considering 4 items. The first would be the mined forest, which, as you said, would be $500,000 debt exclusion, with the state then paying 60%, so at the end it would be a cost to us of $200,000. The second was a high school roof, which has got a cost of $350,000. The third, and I'm just listing what they were saying. So the third was 10 buses, and they said obviously if the action committee comes up with a different solution, that's fine. But what they were proposing was 10 buses, which would have a cost of $900,000. But one of the things that everybody would have to realize, and certainly they would state, would be that 5 of those buses will be a repeat year after year. In other words, it'll be a $450,000 cost every year. And finally, they were looking at technology and textbooks, which came to about $435,000. All of these are round figures. When you got through, you were looking at a couple of million that they were going to be asking, or they were considering asking for a debt exclusion. They then were looking at, they started looking at what it would be if they had to reduce their budget by $2.7 million. And not surprisingly, since your costs are heavily in personnel, you were going to take a big toll on teachers. But I think what they were going to do was to do 2 cuts at it. One was going to be reducing it the $2.7 million, and one was a level budgeting to show what both would be. I guess when you were looking at the type of reductions that they were looking at, and they were severe, and I won't get into specifics just because I don't think it's fair to the school committee, because obviously they were, this was a discussion, so there was nothing that was being decided they were trying to work on, but it was quite clear that you were going to have your class size jumping by somewhere in the order of 25%, and a quite severe layoff in teachers. And that's not surprising, because obviously you can't cut 2.7 million when 80-some% of your costs are personnel, and most of the rest is fixed. You can't get there any other way than cutting personnel. I guess the end of my thought on the end of it is your suggestion is a very good one, because I don't think anybody wants to be blindsided by this as we walk into town meeting, because that's gonna, I think it should concern, if not scare, nearly everybody in the town. And I think, you know, I think that, I would think that the selectmen and certainly the finance committee should be looking hard on this. Now, I don't think they're, at least as of yesterday, they were still working the numbers, so I think if you said have the meeting tomorrow, they would say, hey, we're not ready yet. But, you know, they're clearly working hard on trying to come up with some.
I can contact the chairman on that, and I know he's pretty amenable to the idea. One of the other
I'm
questions,
sure he is.
one of the things that came up was, well, fine, if we know what the level funding is, we know what the budget is based on what was given to us by the town administrator. We also know there's a good possibility there may be some money coming back to the state, or from the state. And their approach this year, I guess, is a little different than it has been in the past. It would be, they would tell everybody what they could put back, right? So it's like, well, if we get 300, then it'll be this, if we get $500,000, it'll be that, right? But it's still going to, no matter how you cut it, it's going to be a huge number if we don't do something.
Yep.
And understand, part of the problem on this is the result, we pushed it down the road a year with the healthcare holiday. This really is in 2011. This is in 2012. You know, and somehow or another we have to make sure that, you know, the residents understand that, the citizens understand that. We moved it out a year, and here we are only 2 months away from the town meeting, and we truly have not done much to deal with the problem at this point.
I have a question for you, Sam, to the chair.
Yes.
Do they ever, I mean, the tactic is always, you know, we're laying off teachers, we're laying off teachers, we're laying off, build a classroom. Does anybody ever talk about cutting administration at all?
Oh,
Anywhere?
yeah. There was talk of cutting everywhere they could.
Because they have so many deans, they have this, they have that, and I'm not questioning the validity or anything, but all I keep hearing is we're gonna lose teachers. Are we looking at, I just wanna make sure that they're looking at everything, not just teachers.
If I may respond on that, obviously, I didn't get into the nitty-gritty on this. I was more an observer. First of all, I didn't have the facts to jump into the middle of it. But my sense was that they were looking at cutting all the costs. And yes, I know in one case they were looking at a situation where there were a couple of principals and cutting down one. I know that they were talking about closing one of the schools. So, you know, they were...
That's why I said we should have them come in and discuss with us.
Now,
what we say now
I'm not suggesting that this is going to be their decision, but...
If they're at least exploring it.
Let's let them, remember, we will be...
Well, Mr.
The
Chairman,
public will see this meeting,
I
okay?
understand
Let's let them have their say first.
I understand,
rather than
Mr.
us
Chairman, I
speculate.
just thought that it would be helpful to ask Mr. Gray what he heard.
Yes, that's, but I would exercise caution as he's starting to. Mr. McDonald?
One of the things that never been explained to me, and I've heard it several times, is this thing called minimum funded. The schools are minimum funded. What is that minimum funded level? Are we?
Don't, excuse me, may I?
That's why I'm asking.
Don't ask me for the detail on this, because I'm gonna be lost very quickly. But apparently, there is a regulation which, as I understand it, requires towns to fund schools a percentage of their total budget.
Okay, so it's really kind of.
So that, and one question that came up was, this present year is, are we gonna meet that minimum? And I would say from at least the school committee's viewpoint, school's still out on that, to use the phrase, that they weren't sure whether we would or not.
Well, that's always been one that I wanted to answer. The other one is, I was not on this committee when this budget came up last year, and I sat right in, well, I got up, walked right down to the microphone and said, we need to address it this year, because what we're doing this year, we should have done last year.
Oh,
All right, let me go a little further, because I have a little bit more, Sam, if I might, okay?
please.
Because I have addressed it with Anna Miranda, and she's trying to get me the numbers as far as what the minimum for next year would be.
Okay.
And in doing that, she was looking at this year and said, oh my goodness, we might have a problem. The minimum funding includes healthcare costs.
Ooh.
And there's a good chance that we might not make minimum funding this year because of the healthcare holiday.
Yep.
That's,
Now, we can miss a year, that's okay with the state, all right? But then going into next year, all right, as I said, we better get back on track. Now, if we have a substantial increase in the healthcare costs, all right, well, fine, we have an increase in the minimum spending, but it's on healthcare, which means we may lose more salaries.
That's right. And this is not just a school problem, this is gonna be a town problem.
so.
No, but it's that for the minimum funding, understand.
Right.
When you come back with a new number, if there's been a substantial increase in healthcare, it may mean additional staff.
Why can't we do both of the selectmen and the school together? Do we wanna do them separately or together, or how do you come in
Well,
and meet
I,
with us?
the school is, I think at some point we need to sit with both. The first step is to really, the school committee would like to tell us what they think is gonna happen on
Okay.
their side. I was actually
Next
asked,
week,
could
right?
they come speak with us? And I said yes. All right, now, they didn't give me any dates or anything, but they wanna make sure that we fully understand, and then we should all talk about it. Bonnie, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna ask a somebody question. What happens if we don't meet minimum school spending? Do we get slapped or what?
Oh, yeah, it's the usual.
So-
You know, I'm not quite sure, you know. I don't
Penalty
know,
for
we're gonna have to
running.
ask the school committee what that means.
All right,
Sam, do you have an answer?
well, I can tell you what they said.
Okay, yeah,
What
okay.
they said was that the town would have to, say you came up 200,000 short. The town would then have to give the school committee $200,000.
Right. And they
Oh, we have
cut
to
from
make it
elsewhere.
up on the town
Yes,
side.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
and if it's a $500,000, it's a $500,000, if it's 200, it's 200, if it's $1 million, it's $1 million. But it has to be met.
Yeah, but if that's the case, I mean, as far as this year is concerned, an adjustment in accounting can be made and take less of a
No.
holiday. Why not?
Oh, that,
Yeah.
because the holiday is what allows us to balance the year.
I understand.
Thank you very much for your attention to this program. This is a very important problem for the town and for all of its citizens. We will try and keep you informed as we go through the process with our budget. Thank you.